So today we're going to talk about gun control and what's been hidden from you and what they never discuss. Now, the interesting thing about gun control is there is not a human being in the United States that's alive today that hasn't been under gun control. Now, why do I say this? And the fact is actually pretty simple. Almost all gun control has originated from the Democratic Party, with the exception of a few presidential decrees by members of the Bush family and Donald Trump. Now, if we go back to shortly before the Civil War, the Democratic Party passed all kinds of gun control legislation, otherwise known as Jim Crow laws, focused on minorities. This was also focused on immigrants. That's the origin of gun control in the United States, is to control populations so that they can be abused. Now, as we move forward in time, we come to around 1911, the Sullivan Law was passed in New York City by Big Tim Sullivan, who was a political boss. What that did was brought in a permit system for handguns so that the political opposition would be disarmed and the thugs and murderers in the democratically controlled New York politics could abuse and rule over people. This is a fact. Look up Big Tim Sullivan. This law was further propagandized to use against minorities and immigrants. In the 1930s, with FDR, we have the thoughts coming online that poor people should be denied firearms. When you look at the National Firearm Act, there was no widespread crime at the time. There was a few instances where criminal gangs that were politically connected illegally bought machine guns or built them and used them in crime. If you go back and you do the research, you'll see they were very few used in crime, well under 1%. The result of this was they banned them pretty much, except for rich people that could afford the tax stamps and were politically connected and could complete the paperwork. Now, every time they passed a gun control law, crime got worse. Look at the statistics. There's no hiding that. It's obvious. Then we move forward to 1968 and we add destructive devices to the list of National Firearm Act weapons. Then we bring in the fact that we're going to have age limits. Before 1968, there were no age limits on firearm purchases, and you could buy a mail order. So, going back to 1930s, you could buy machine guns, sawed-off shotguns through the mail. They were common, they were usual, they were numerous, very rarely used in crime. They banned them. We come to 1968. They banned destructive devices. There was only 3 cases where destructive devices were used in crime in the United States. 3 cases. Now, then we come and we add age limits. There was no age limits before 1968. A child could buy a gun legally. And then we move forward to the assault weapons bill, which had absolutely no effect on crime whatsoever. But they lying about that today. If you look at the Justice Department statistics, it's obvious it had no effect. Then you had importation bans by the Bush administration, where you couldn't bring guns into the U.S., you couldn't manufacture here. And then the cream on the crop was the machine gun manufacturing ban. There are approximately 184,000 legally registered machine guns in the United States. From 1934 to today, one of them was used in a murder. So one gun out of 186,000. And that one gun was used by a police officer to murder a drug dealer. There's absolutely no case where a registered machine gun was used by a civilian to commit a crime. Period. Yet they banned them anyway. So today, especially with Matthew McConaughey proving how big a fool he actually was and proving how big a fool Hollywood is, you'll notice they use weapons you can't have to make money in their films. And they're okay with that. They have armed guards that have machine guns and handguns. They're okay with that. But you can't have any of this. They can have concealed carry permits. You can't. So every instance following a gun control law being put into place, crime has gone up, not down. So I think it's time we actually repeal all the gun control laws for 10 years and see what happens. Because for 150 years we've done it the way of the Democrats with gun control, and it didn't work. None of it worked. It doesn't work. So let's repeal it all and see if it's better or worse. Please comment, rate, subscribe. We'll see you on the next video.